and the government are heading for a showdown over water rights. But what's really at the heart of this debate? Today we talk with the man who's steering the Maori Council's legal waka through this turbulent issue. He's a former High Court judge and former chairman of the Waitangi Tribunal. He's now the co-chair of the New Zealand Maori Council, Sir Eddie Durie. Tēnā rā koe.
Tēnā koe, tēnā koe.
Is the council claiming all water for Māori? Is that what this is all about?
No, we need to get this very clear, Scotty. This is not a claim to the ownership of all water. This is a claim to proprietary interests in some very specific blocks. And it's important to understand that difference. The claim would be exaggerated and I think unacceptable to most people if it was spread or spoken of in the wide way that it is often spoken of. So what I mean by that is if you go to a place like, say, Poroti Springs, where you have a spring that just gushes out fresh water from an associated hill and ranges, and which was set aside as a water resource for the common use and benefit of the Māori of that place. That spring now supplies about 40%, I'm told, of the water supply for Whangarei City. It's used by a horticultural company, it's used by a bottling company, all of whom make a very large profit or gain from the use of that water, but the people of Poroti get nothing. So we're talking about very specific things like that.
Okay, so it's not water in general right across the country?
It's not water in general right across the country. We are looking at particular areas, and what we need to do is to define just how far it can and should go so that it doesn't intrude on the general public interest.
So let's rewind a bit. How did this case come about? Where did it all start?
It actually started with Ngāti Rangiwewehi and their claim and their proceedings before the Environment Court on an application for a resource consent by the local authority. A very similar situation, a very large pure water supply, very significant flow, and a government, a local authority which is pumping the water out. It's set aside again as a Maori reservation for the common use and benefit of the people out there at Awaho and that papakainga out there. Again, no benefit to them. All the benefit goes into to the people who use it, who live out there in Ngongotaha and in the city. And on what basis? The basis is simply, well, in Pākehā law, you can't own water. That's what we keep so getting told.
This case hasn't been a result of asset sales then? This has been long going?
Oh, this has been a very long going claim. It actually, you know, you can take this claim back to the 1870s when Maori were claiming the same thing. You can follow it right through the 1930s, 40s and 50s when the Wanganui River people were making the same claim. The Ika Whenua people have been making this claim. It's been around a long time. The problem is government has never addressed it. Then why do we suddenly wish to address it now? Because when you go to asset sales, and we're not claiming shares in companies, Maori Council isn't, it may be that some of the iwi might wish to do that, but we're not looking for shares in these companies or the like. We're just saying that once you make a decision that a body which uses a water resource is able to do so at no cost, at zero cost, then you're setting a precedent which says Maoris do not have proprietary interests in water, and you'd have to do the same for all others, otherwise you've created a privileged investment group.
So what's the ultimate goal then?
The ultimate goal in all of this is to get recognition, frankly. It's very much a cultural issue as far as I can see. Is to get recognition for the rights of people like those in Poroti, like those who have interests in rivers and aquifers.
What about compensation?
Yep, and compensation.
And what does the compensation look like?
Who have lost it. Well, here we're talking about those people. Now, let me start back here. That New Zealand was once a large mass of wetlands, and most of our marae were associated with particular wetlands, which were our primary food resource. Most of those wetlands have now been drained out and have gone. These are the people who would be looking for some form of compensation that would ensure the continuation of their papakainga in future and their access to water in future if need be, through a fund that will provide them with the tanks and the like to ensure that they can maintain their own water supply.
And I'm hearing something about a royalties scheme. Can you tell us more about that?
The royalty scheme would apply where you have people, where you have businesses utilising a water resource, and you can say, well, that water resource is under the mana of a particular hapu or iwi. Now, we use that term mana. Take it across to English context, and you're talking about a proprietary right in water, not the ownership of water.
Who should the government be dealing with? Should they be dealing with the Maori Council or the iwi Leaders Forum?
Oh, well, all people have an interest in this, so we need to find some appropriate representative bodies. Now, the strength of the New Zealand Maori Council, as I see it, is that it is interested in national policy development. That's its function. But when you actually come to make settlements, you must make them not with the council, but with the local hapu and iwi. Therefore, we have to work with the iwi authorities and the iwi leaders, and we want to work with them. They have done a tremendous job in water management so far. Their being there ensures that it is the hapu and the iwi who get the ultimate benefit out of all of this. And so last Monday we came to an agreement to work together, which I think was a very significant agreement.
Is there is the government legally bound to address this issue in terms of whatever the tribunal comes up with in terms of its recommendation, and whatever the Maori Council case is, and whatever the iwi Leaders Forum say, the government doesn't have to listen, do they?
The government is not legally bound to follow the recommendations of the tribunal, it's just treaty bound. If it's going to stand by the undertakings that it made at the time of the treaty, then oh yes, it should certainly be listening to the tribunal. There's
a lot of misconception out there amongst the broader public about what Māori are after. Can you allay those concerns?
I hope so. What we do need to come up with is a framework that will accommodate the royalty rights of those groups with specific interests in hydro dams and the like, at Pauakani and the Wairarapa people and so on up there at, in the Waikato River, which will accommodate the people of Portage Springs, all those people in your district of Te Arawa who have geothermal interests. It's the same system again, that's another form of water. They've had those for generations. Suddenly somebody is saying, well, they don't own the water or have no right to it. We need to ensure that they are protected, and then we need to put a framework around it so that it just doesn't go too far, and the general public is not held to ransom by Maori people, because that is not the objective.
Sir Eddie Durie, thank you very much for your time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Tēnā koe, Scott.
Kia ora, tēnā koe.